the sons of Prachina Banasad. So meditated on Lord Sri Krishna for 10,000 years, by the prayers given to them by Lord Shiva, right? Rudra Gitena. So they meditated for 10,000 years and to basically see the Lord. The Lord came, appeared before them, and with full opulence, right? We described all the opulences a week or two ago. He came with a lot of his followers, demigods, sages, all other personalities who follow Lord. They all appeared with him before the Prachetas. He basically, told the Prachetas, now you can basically ask me for anything. All right, after they paid their obeisances to him. And Lord Krishna also said that anybody who remembers this Prachetas activities will become united, right? We'll see everybody as equal. Why is that? Because the Prachetas, for 10,000 years of austerity, they were united in their purpose. They didn't have different ambitions, they didn't have different goals. In the 10,000 year of austerities, they had only one goal, one common goal. They were united. We talked about, even devotees, coming to the temple, acting as one. We all have our differences, but when we come to the temple, we are all united together in performing activities in service of Lord Krishna. Right? That is what they also did. And Krishna basically came for them in full opulence and they said, we request any benediction you want, I will provide them to you. Right? Then I think the verses, so once again, they were all united, right? They followed their father's orders to pray, to meditate, and worship the Lord, and they did. So he blessed them that they'll all have a nice son who will in no way be inferior to Lord Brahma. He'll be famous all over the universe. And the sons and grandsons generated by them will fill the three worlds. I mean, Canto 4 is all about progeny, right? I mean, populating the universe, populating the world. That is what it's all about. So he's offering the same, Lord Krishna is offering the same benediction to the Prachetas as well. And, he also basically said that, the daughter who was born between the Apsara from Locha and with the sage Kandu, which was verse number 13, which, Vikrami Prabhupada talked about, marry that girl. That girl was left in the forest to be taken care of by the trees. Right? And and even when the child began to cry, the moon god, Chandra, he basically fed her. Right? That was verse number 14. So he asked her basically, Lord Krishna told the Prachetas, all of them to marry her, so she would have 10 husbands. But they all have a common purpose. Once again, united, right? So what is the common purpose? The common purpose is obviously to serve Lord Sri Krishna. Now, Srila Prabhupada talks about it, right? In the sense is, you cannot marry, nowadays, obviously, you can't marry. One woman can't marry multiple husbands. He said basically one husband can marry multiple wives, but that basically, in those days, they were all equally well taken care of. Nowadays, things don't happen. You have a lot of jealousy, in Kali Yuga. It can never be united. He gives an example of Draupadi, right? Draupadi basically meditated and prayed that she wanted, different qualities, all the best qualities in her husbands. She wanted the strongest person to be her husband. She wanted the wisest person to be her husband. She wanted a great archer to be her husband. She wanted a great horseman to be her husband. She wanted a very beautiful person to be extremely beautiful. So all that in one person one human being is extremely difficult. So the Lord did grant her wishes, but she got 5 husbands who all had those qualities which she was looking for. But once again, those 5 brothers, her 5 husbands, were not jealous among themselves. All right, they all treated Draupadi well, and in turn, Draupadi also did not basically favor one over the other. Okay, they were all treated equally, and they all had the same goal, right? They were all great devotees of Sri Krishna, and we know through the Mahabharata story itself how Sri Krishna multiple times came and helped them. They had the same common goal, and they were all very disciplined. There is even an instance where when Arjun, went into the room, and I think in a year she will stay with one of the husbands, right, one of the brothers. When Arjun went into the room and she was Yudhishthir or something like that, so I don't remember exactly. So there was a rule that if they disturb when she is with one of the other brothers, then they will have to go away for a jungle for a year. Arjun had not much of a choice because he had to retrieve his bow and arrows, right? And he didn't have much of a choice. He retrieved it. Then he did banish himself to the forest for a year. That is discipline, right? They took that oath, and he maintained that. So that is not possible in the Yuga of Kali, right? So everybody, we talked about unity. We talked about the prachetas themselves being united in their austerities, and here also, when the woman marries all the 10 brothers, they're all united in their service to Lord Sri Krishna. And what does Krishna also say? I mean, Krishna is basically telling them, he's ordering them, to basically marry and together. And obviously, you follow Krishna's orders, right? There is no good or bad or anything like that in Krishna's order. Krishna's orders means it is divine, it is good. Only good can happen out of that. There are no bad feelings, there are no bad results which are going to come. It's all going to be good only. Krishna said the same thing to Draupadi as well, right? Marry, or to Pandavas, you all got to marry, right? When Kunti Mataji basically said split it among the 5, she didn't know it was actually Draupadi. She thought it was some kind of a gift. Then Krishna is the one who convinced them, you got to marry, because once again, they all have a common purpose, right? So the prachetas too just followed the order. Initially they followed the order of their father, right? They went to perform austerities. And then they're following the order of Sri Krishna. So that is also, following orders is also very important. We have got to follow order of our parents. If you have a guru, you follow the orders of our guru. Obviously you follow the orders of the Lord if the Lord gives you some orders, right? It's very important. Practically, there are lots of examples of that, right? Take our Vikrami Prabhu itself. Our Guru Maharaj told him, he was having a real good life in Vancouver, Canada. His Guru Maharaj told him, go to Las Vegas, they need a priest. He did come to Las Vegas, right? No questions asked. When he came here, he was a priest, he was a cook, he was everything. Cleaner, he did a lot of work. It was a different life from than Vancouver. Vancouver had a much bigger congregation. This is a much smaller congregation. He used to perform aratis all alone. It never happened in Vancouver. He went through a lot of trouble, probably still going through, but he followed his guru's orders. And if you follow Guru's orders, if you follow your parents' orders, if you follow Lord's orders, it's going to be extremely beneficial for you, right? That's the ultimate goal too. You're going to be more and more in service of Lord Sri Krishna. Now, whether it benefited Vikrami Prabhu or not, we don't know 100% for sure, but obviously it's benefited a lot of us. So we devotees have become better with his association, right? But that's the key. You follow the orders. That's what Srila Prabhupada also talks about in this verse. So Srila Prabhupada talks about the prachetas offering their wife Marisha to basically serve them in a shared unified purpose. So the word unified, unity, being united is talked about quite a lot. Why? Because that is a critical piece of our devotion to the Lord. You're not alone all the time. What do they say? If you want to basically increase your devotional service, if you want to basically lead a life which takes you in the spiritual realm and instead of the material realm, what do you have to do? I mean, you have to be with like-minded devotees. And if you spend 23 hours in a day with materialistic people and 1 hour a day with devotees, whose aim is to serve Sri Krishna, then you will basically only be influenced by the materialistic people. It is very difficult, to overcome the 23 hours of influence in a day. It's not possible for that 1 hour to overcome the 23 hours. But if you flip it, so if you spend 23 hours in the presence of, devotees who want to serve Krishna, and 1 hour, say for example, in the material world, then obviously your influence will be more towards working towards a spiritual life, all right, leading a spiritual life more than a material life. So that is important. And even when you have to spend time with the devotees of Sri Krishna, who provide service to Krishna, still you got to be united. You got to be unified. You leave out all of your material things when you step inside the temple or mix with the devotees, right? The association is pretty key, pretty important. As an individual, there is only so much we can do. But if you are associating with devotees, you will basically have a better chance of leading a spiritual life, right? Or at least tending towards a spiritual life. And that is what is basically the Prachetas, the 10 brothers, and their wife, also the common goal. Please serve Sri Krishna. Obviously Prabhupada also states it's not possible in today's age, in the Kali Yuga, it's not possible. There'll be too much. They'll keep fighting amongst each other, right? It's impossible to do it. Sometimes you even see, even when you come to the temple, sometimes we have arguments. We are not united in our service to Krishna. Some might think they are better. They are here in their service. They might think that the others are on a lower level. We talked about this a week ago. I think it was last Saturday or Sunday. When you come to the temple, everybody is the same. You might be a neophyte devotee. You're new to the temple. You're here for 1 month. There might be some person who's direct Srila Prabhupada's disciple, 50 plus years of service. But when you come in front of Sri Krishna, you provide service, you're all the same. Yes, spiritually, they're on a higher level. Okay, we are neophytes, so we are on a lower level. But, in Sri Krishna's eyes, when you're performing service, you're all the same. You will not find a 50 plus year devotee and a direct disciple of Srila Prabhupada treating a neophyte different than how he treats his own god brother. Right? So we got to learn from those. We got to learn from those people, right? Sometimes, we talked about that one incident where, a woman was asked to carry around a cup filled up to the brim with water, around the temple, right? Her focus was not to drop a single drop of water. It should not spill. But she didn't observe what the other people were doing, which was what she was doing when she was normally coming to the temple. The same thing for us too. When you come in here, forget everything else. Just focus on the service of Sri Krishna. And that is what Prachetas and their wife are also doing. So what is the purpose of all this stuff? Right? Srila Prabhupada also says, surrendering on to the Lord. That is it. You're doing service, you're doing kirtan, you're coming to the temple, you're associating with devotees. All this has got only one common goal, right? The common goal is just surrender to Sri Krishna. That is what Srila Prabhupada, if you listen to his classes and all that stuff, ultimately the goal would be to just surrender. If you surrender to Sri Krishna will take care of you. So in this instance, right, at least even the Prachetas and marrying of Marisha, they had the special blessing of the Lord. Right? So obviously, if you have a blessing of the Lord, if you have a blessing of your Guru, everything is actually going to turn out to be really good. They can live a life in full service of Krishna and surrender to Lord Krishna. So even surrendering to Lord Krishna, Srila Prabhupada quoted a verse from chapter 18, right? Verse number 66. What is it? Sarva dharmam parityaja mam ekam sharanam raja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshyashyami masuchaha. So what is he saying? Abandon all religions, right? Do whatever you're doing, just forget about all that stuff and just surrender unto me. Right? I shall deliver you from all sinful actions. So, even at the end of, the last portion of Bhagavad Gita is all Bhakti Yoga, and that's what he talks about, right? Just surrender unto me. That is what it ultimately means, just surrender. There are also other words from Bhagavad Gita. Yat karoshi, yad ashnashi, yad juhoshi, dadashi, yat tapasya kaunteya, tat karushva mad arpanam. So whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, all right, whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. We also talk about patram, pushpam, phalam, troyam, So whatever we offer, whatever you do, offer it to Krishna. Think about Krishna. So that is once again another definition of surrender. All your activities, whatever you do, you're surrendering yourself to Krishna. And, that's really important. That is what this verse is all about too, right? When the Prachetas and their wife are all surrendered to Lord Krishna to perform service for Krishna, then they're all united and they're not going to have any issues between them because the focus is service for Krishna. So, we talk about a lot, right? Service for Krishna, united, focus, and all that stuff. So how do we get there? Right? We are all not going to, Lord is not going to come in front of all of us and bless us, right? So if He does, then obviously we don't have to worry about any material influences. But that's not going to happen. So how do we basically how do we go about there where we are thinking about Sri Krishna all the time? We are surrendering unto the Lord. So the first step, obviously, is coming to temple, right? Association of devotees. And we talked about that quite a bit, right? Association of devotees. So you will basically gain their influence upon you if you come with an open mind, without any misgivings. And obviously, prayers, right? Chanting. Always chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Bol. Prabhuji, any comments, questions?
Thank you so much, Apna.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai. Lord Premanande. Hare Hare. Hare Bol.